if you can love every moment of your day and love what you're doing every day, you can't help but love what you're doing during the day. And that's what has led us to building this kind of funky, quirky company that lets us play. Our kids are involved every day. I'm slinging mud with the girls and we're shooting stuff and we're just kind of playing. And the amazing thing is we create these crazy, fun, cool projects that people couldn't have even imagined were possible.
This is episode 147 with Al Curtis and Sandi Maki of Ask the Pool Guy and Girl. Enjoy!
Welcome to your go-to podcast for the pool and spa industry. My name is Tyler Rasmussen.
And my name is Greg Viafania. And this is the Pool Chasers Podcast.
Well, thank you both very much for taking the time to be with us on this remote call. I remember we spoke in Atlantic City. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
think so.
The last place we were somewhere in person with other pool people.
New Orleans, I think, was the last one, but we had spoke,
yeah.
Originally in Atlantic City, I think, yeah.
Yeah, I know everything changed after that, but I remember we had a great conversation that I'll never forget because, of course, I've known of you, Ty's known of you guys for a long time and owe a lot to what you guys are doing. You really pioneered the way of doing YouTube videos and a lot of different things up there with like almost Van Brunt. So we have a ton of respect for the creativity and all the different things that you do. And one thing that stood out, and we'll talk about it later, is just that you have like a true family business. You were with your daughters at the time and just they were talking about doing video and I was like, yeah, we do shotcrete and we do this and we do that. And I'm like, what? Oh, shit. I'm like, that isn't, I'm like, how old are you?
They're awesome. There's no doubt about it. They're awesome.
Yeah. So we just had a great conversation and it's taken way too long, but finally, we've made the time to have this conversation. So thank you both for being here with us.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
So we'd love to get to know you both a little bit better. Al, maybe we'll start with you. You know, where did you grow up and how exactly did you get into the swimming pool industry?
Oh, well, I'm born and raised here in Michigan. I was born in Detroit, grew up here, traveled. I lived in New Jersey and South Carolina and then back to Michigan. I started with the kids in elementary school and I finished with the same kids in high school, but I traveled around in between, so it was kind of fun. But I got in the pools. It's kind of my story is this. I didn't pick it. It picked me. I was in college. My brother Rick called me. It was right at the end of the semester, beginning of the summer. And he said, hey, what are you doing this summer? And I said, well, I don't know. I'll be home this weekend. And he said, well, good. You start pools on Monday. And that was literally my way in, is he had gotten me a job unbeknownst to me as a pool guy. So I showed up Monday morning and I wasn't your typical guy. I could do the construction, but I love the service. I love the detail and learning and growing and changing. And within about a month, I was on the service crew. And within about 3 months, I was leading the service department. It was just one of those things that I was this young kid that just loved that kind of stuff. And that was the beginning. So I worked for the guy through college. So funny story kind of is I started college in art. I wanted to go into illustration and advertising, which at the time it was all hand-drawn advertising and hand-drawn pictures and things. And my professors didn't think I was very good at drawing, but they knew I was great at sculpture. So they thought, no, you need to do something in 3 dimensions. Well, after a little bit of art school, I switched my degree and I ended up with a degree in physics and math. So I went about as far right brain degree to about as far left brain degree as you could get. And the only place that I fit in is the pool business. It made total sense. In the interim of that, I started doing pools during the summer for the previous owner of the company. And I kind of went from there. And I loved the design and I loved color and I loved shape and I loved all the details of what could be. And the previous owner just loved really basic pools. His business model was as bare basic and as many as you could do as fast as you could do them and pump them out as quick as you can. I didn't like that model. But I worked for him for about 7 years. And in the interim of that, he was in his mid-40s. He had 9 kids at home, and he had ended up undergoing open heart surgery. Well, the doctor gave him about a year. He was doing okay, but about a year later, they noticed stress on his body again, and they said, you have to get out. So his option to get out was just to quit or to try to sell it to someone. Well, Me and his cousin, or me and his nephew were the two guys that had been there the longest. And he split the company up into two pieces. And I got the opportunity at the ripe young age of 25 years old to buy a pool company. I had nothing. I had no money, I had a dream of being something better than I was. And I had a growing family. I had one young one and a second daughter on the way. And we decided we'll figure it out. And somehow we just threw enough mud against the wall and it stuck. And next thing you know, I owned a pool company that had a service business and it had a retail store and it had all these things. And I have no idea how I got here, but I loved it and I loved every minute of it. And I was willing to just continue fighting. And here I am, 30 years later.
Yeah. How was that transition going from more of the artistic side in you wanting to do illustration and then transitioning into like construction, because they are similar in some ways, but a lot of times you have somebody else doing, the design work and then doing the construction side.
Well, I think that was the blessing for me, is I had both sides of those. But an example back in college, probably the most poignant example of me working better three-dimensionally is we had a project, and the project was take a piece of cardboard and build a box out of it. But the goal is to have as many facets or as many sides to the box as you possibly can have. So that was the project. And kids came back with a folded box that had, 10 sides and 12 sides and 15 sides. Mine had 164 facets to it. That was just spatially, I could figure out how things worked, and I bent this piece of cardboard into this thing that had 164 facets. So it was easy for me to transition to pools because I could then see three-dimensionally. I could picture what was underground. I knew the structural part because my background is physics, but I could see the three dimensions. And when I took over, I didn't like that part of the business, that it was really basic and boring. So, and basic and boring for me. I mean, that's a lot of businesses, and that's perfectly fine, and we need those businesses. But for me, I didn't want to stay there. And I knew really quickly, about a year in of owning it, that if I didn't find another way, I would quit. Because it was just sucking the soul out of me. I wanted to be creative. I wanted to do stuff. And we're talking back in those days, we were building almost strictly vinyl liner pools. We did a few gunite pools, but it was mostly vinyl liner pools. And put liner pools 30 years ago, they were pretty boring and pretty simple and pretty straightforward. And I didn't want that. So I was the guy that figured out how to put rock edges. Like almost day one, we started putting stone and brick and everything on them. And then we were pouring our own sun shelves out of concrete and building our own ledges and things that, the industry eventually got there where we did them out of steel, but we did those all by hand years and years ago. And then we talked the liner companies into making stuff to fit for us. We'd literally go into their offices and hand help design so we could get things to fit over sun shelves and fit over hand poured steps and concrete love seats and stuff like that. So that was just where I was best suited, was to push the envelope. So I started way early pushing the envelope.
So how'd you make the transition from those basic pools to those more complex ones? What were you doing to learn and figure all that out?
So the secret to it for me was sell it and figure out how to build it. So I'd come up with an idea and I would be like, oh, this is really cool. I wonder what it would be like. And then I would get a customer that says, I want something different, but I don't know what I want. And I'd say, what about this? And they'd say, oh, that sounds great. Then I would go and figure out how to build it. And literally, that's what I stumbled my way into the success of it each and every time, because I was smart enough to figure out how, and I was gutsy enough and ballsy enough to try it. Where everybody else in my industry, in my market, was trying to stay safe and stay comfortable, I always stayed on the edge. But what I never did do was give it away. I've heard a lot of experts say, oh, give one away. So, it's like a learning process. You can learn, and they're basically will cover your costs. And I never did that. I'm like, I'm going to make money at this. So if I make a mistake, I can fix it. I don't run away. And so we always charged for everything we did. And somehow it was just a process of trying. There was nowhere to turn. There was nobody. And that's a large part of why we did the internet stuff. And the Ask the Pool Guy, we'll talk about that in a bit, but was because there was nowhere for people to learn how to do things. And I had no source of, I had no pool companies or no mentor. There was no one for me to go to and say, how can I do this? I just had to do it, and I did it, but I was confident enough to know I'll figure it out. Whether it was something that I'd seen before or not, I figured there's got to be a way, and every single time it worked. Some better than others. I'm not real proud of some of the stuff we built before. The people loved it, but it makes me cringe today to think about what it is. But at that time, they loved it because it was cutting edge, and there was no other way other than trying, and that's what I did.
Yeah. I'm curious, has it been difficult at all coming from a small town? I'm assuming if you're in Brighton, Michigan, right? What's the population there?
I think about the 30,000 in the town, and there's probably another 30,000 in the community around.
Yeah, so that's relatively small, and I'm sure it's spread out quite a bit. And it's not like a California or Texas where we get a lot more warm weather. You're dealing with a cooler climate with not as many people. So you have pretty limited resources, I'm assuming.
We do. What's really surprising, people don't realize how big the Michigan market is, though. If you look at some of the statistics that I've heard, is if you look at the by state, the number of pools built, Michigan is the eighth largest market in the country. So while people think of Michigan as being this Arctic cold, we use our pools almost as much as you do in Arizona. The difference is we have cold weather and we use a lot more heaters, which I know you're trending there now because of all the Canadians that started retiring into the Arizona started wanting heaters because they were used to the cold weather. But we would get 6 or 7 months of use of the pool. The only difference is we have a point where you close it down and then you open it back up, where you guys, typically people just stop using it for several months and then they use it again when it warms up again. So our season isn't that much less. It's maybe a month or two less, but it's not like we swim for 3 months and you swim for 11. We
Right.
might swim for 6 months and you swim for 8 months. So it's not as far apart as people would think.
Yeah, I'm sure in the spring and summer, you get to actually enjoy that pool a little bit more because here it gets about a quarter way through the summer and I can't even swim anymore because it
too
naturally is like, it's like 90 something degrees. I'm like, this is
Like a
not
bath.
90 degrees in here. It's 110 outside. This is not, I'm going to go take a cold shower. Like, I'd rather
Right.
not be in this.
That's a really good point. Is we get those middle summer months where it becomes really warm, and it's an 85 or 90 degree day here, but the pool is at a comfortable 78 or 80. So it becomes refreshing and usable. So our season is a bit longer than people would think, and that has really helped. In terms of where you started with the question, we do have to travel farther for sure. I mean, we cover the whole southeast of Michigan, although we could have built pools all over the world. We've gotten requests from everywhere, but we tend to stay with about an hour to hour and a half. So very rarely do we have one 5 minutes from home. Most of them are a half an hour or more from home. We do have to travel out of Brighton quite a bit.
Right. Thank you so much, Al. Appreciate that. And how about you, Sandy? You've been quiet over there. Love to hear your story and, how you got into this business.
Yeah, that could take up the rest of this hour. But let's just summarize it in a few key pieces. So I had no idea that I would end up in the pool industry. I originally was more interested in marketing and business and psychology and real estate and all those types of things. But through a series of events, so I was married at the time that I started working with the pool company, and I had a couple of small children. And my now ex-husband actually is the one who introduced me to the pool industry. He had worked in this company with Al when he was in high school for the previous owner. And then after a stint in the military, we found ourselves back in Michigan. So he had looked up Al to just, talk about the good old days and find out what was going on. And they worked a deal where actually my ex-husband and I were going to buy a portion of the pool company from Al. Long story even shorter, I ended up getting a divorce, which was an interesting transition time, but I decided to stay with the pool company, and my ex went his separate ways. So I have done everything on a pool team that there is. I've opened pools. I was the lead pool opener. I've tried troubleshooting, different things like that. I can do it all, although I'm much more well suited for the business aspects in the office and things like that. So I think Al could probably fill you in on a little more of the details as I'm making this pretty brief. But turns out what they say is true. Once chlorine gets into your blood, you kind of never leave it. So once you've got the specialized knowledge and you learn kind of how to have this industry become a part of your style of life, it's been a natural fit since then.
Right. And do you think that it's helped you become a better marketer for your business because you have done all those different things? Like you've done things prior to maybe being in the pool business, but you always had a love for marketing, but you've been doing startups and all these different things. So it's probably so much easier to actually market something that you've actually done yourself, right?
Right. I do find that. And, marketing, if we think about it, is really communication. And once you understand the way a homeowner is asking a question, or, when you're on the job and you're doing something and then you have to relay it to them later, the biggest part, and I think the thing that people should keep in mind, is it's all about how you communicate that information. So yes, I get to blend the technical aspects of kind of, we know what's going on, how best to communicate it, and how to put it in a way that everybody understands it and can continue growing and learning together.
Very good.
That's awesome. Tell us about the this magical office headquarters that you've created.
Yeah, that's a good one. I don't know, Al, do you want to start on any of it, or
Let me just touch on you and you becoming involved. So I was at the point that her ex-husband and I were working together. He'd come back to work for me, and we had worked out this deal that they would buy majority of the company. I was burned out. I had just decided that it was killing me. All my hair fell out. I missed all my kids growing up, going to all those events, and I was chasing money. It felt like I was chasing money to no end. I wasn't getting where I needed to be. So I had tried to get out. And that's when I was selling the company, or a good portion of it, to them. And after their breakup and that happened, I was kind of drawn back in. I was 90% of the way out. I thought I'm going to be able to go do something else and be a part of the pool business, but not have the stress of it. And all of a sudden I was drawn back in. And the only thing that made sense to me was partner. So Sandi and I are full partners in it. At that time, she and her ex-husband were both working for me in this process. And at that point, and it's been, 15 years now, probably, Sandi? It's been a long time.
Yeah.
We just decided, if we're going to keep going, let's be partners. Because she's the businesswoman. She handles all of that. She does all that stuff that I don't have to. And I can just go be creative. A good point to touch here, though, was she knew that I still wasn't, my heart wasn't in it. Like, I loved the pool business, but it was killing me. It sucked the soul out of me. And I got so lost in the doing of it that I missed living for a while there, that I was still trying to get out. And as we partnered, we worked for a couple years, and we built so many great projects. We had such great customers that they kept referring us, and people called. And at one point, I gave all my equipment away. Hey, here, you want my dump truck? Hey, here, do you want my mixers? Do you want my stamp equipment? I was just done. I was fed up and done with it. But the phone kept ringing. And when the phone rang, like an idiot, I would pick it up and say, or she might answer it, and then I'd say, sure, we'll build you a pool, Mrs. Jones. And next thing you know, I'm out renting equipment, and it just wouldn't leave me alone. I was suited for it. I was good for it, but I was burned out. Well, that's when all of the internet stuff happened for us. Was she knew I was kind of wanting to get out, but we had gotten involved in social media, kind of an early stage. She's a lot younger than me. I'm an old concrete guy. I know almost nothing about the internet. And she had a Facebook account before it was cool to have Facebook outside of college. And she said, look, we had at that time, in a whole nother part of the story, we'd started building another business as well. And we were teaching social media. Now get this, an old pool guy teaching social media. We're talking when Twitter was brand new and Facebook was just coming out of the colleges. And we end up on this weird whirlwind tour of teaching social media around the country. Well, we had a group of people, and sorry, long-winded story, but it really pertains to kind of what's become the magical company that we are. We had a group of really well suited independent business guys that flew to, and came to our facility to talk about social media. They'd come from all over the country, some really great business people. And our discussion with them was how important it was for C-suite executives and owners of companies to embrace social media. Now, again, we're talking a long time ago. We're not talking 3 years ago. I mean, it's normal now, but 10, 12 years ago, you didn't talk about C-suite executives understanding the importance of YouTube and Twitter. But we had these guys come in and we had this roundtable discussion. And some of these guys knew us and knew our business, knew we had a pool company as well. And a guy from Houston, Texas stood up at the far end of the table and he slammed his hand down on the table. And he said, if you're so effing good at the social media, why don't you use it for your pool company? And he slapped me. It was basically a slap across the face. Well, I'd been trying to get out for so long. I still, my feet were back in, but I wasn't sure that I wanted to stay in the pool business. Well, when he slapped me around that day, which was really good, I looked at the guy next to me, a really amazing business owner, a well-known franchise that you guys would know. And I said, man, I'm burned out. We haven't wanted to put energy into the pool business like this. But what that guy, his name was Dick, what he did for me was he's planted a seed and it germinated. But why don't we use the internet and social media for the pool company? Well, it was probably 2 months later. I showed up in Sandi's office one morning and I said, I've had this idea. What if? What if we could start over? We have this pool company, but what if we could do only what we want to do in pools? What if we could only have fun doing it? What if it could just be exciting and enjoyable and we could make money do it and get rid of all of the stress and all of the dumb customers and all that crazy stuff? And she looked at me and she thought I'd either had a stroke, number one, or I'd hit my head. Something was wrong. And she thought about it. She goes, let me get back to you. And 2 days later, she came back to me. She goes, you know what? I think we can, but you're going to have to do exactly what I tell you to do for 1 year. Now, this is early YouTube, early all of that. And I said, I'm not sure what that means, but okay. and so I just agreed. And every single day she stuck a camera in my face and she said, talk about pools every day, whether I wanted to or whether I didn't want it to, whether I was out on the job, whether she showed up there or I came back to the office late at night, dirty or whatever. She put a camera in my face. She said, talk about pools. And that was the beginning. The very first videos that we have out there, some of the very first ones, I had a flip camera. You guys might be too young to know what the flip cams were.
With the one button on the back.
Mm-hmm.
It's me walking around a pool, a project we were working on that was a super cool project, and I wanted to share it with the world. I'm in overalls, and I'm carrying this camera like this, walking around, see that thing behind me and see that over there, and I started talking about pools.
It was so early, it didn't have selfie mode. So to do selfie, he actually held it and spun it around.
Turn it around.
While he was talking, yeah.
And so we just started with that, like, how could we share what we do? And from that grew, then Ask the Pool Guy was born, because out of something we talked about earlier too, was when I was starting to be creative, I had nowhere to go to learn. I had no one to help me. This is before all of the different design options and design software studios, and even before Genesis had really become, they were in the infancy, but they hadn't become what they, from a design standpoint, what they are now. So I had nowhere to go. So my goal, and when we started proposing this Ask the Pool Guy, was how could we build, other than just this YouTube channel that help people learn about pools, how could we help other people in our industry, manufacturers, and homeowners get answers? And next thing you know, Ask the Pool Guy was born, and we start answering thousands and thousands of questions from people all over the world, asking us some of the craziest stuff I'd never heard of. And we had to start pretending like we were experts. We had to figure it out. And, someone would ask a question and we'd be out there Googling it, trying to see if anyone else had ever answered that question. But what happened was we started gaining credibility. And of course, then the YouTube part of what we were doing really took off to a point where I couldn't have imagined the amount of traffic that we get on our YouTube videos today. But we did it because we wanted to share our knowledge and to help people in the industry. We had no intention of making it a business. It was just a thing. We're already working 100 hours a week on pools, so why not work 105 hours a week and make some videos? And that's kind of what it turned into. But I listened to her when she said, talking to camera every day, all the time. And by the time you've told your story 1,000 times, it starts making sense and people kind of hear it. You finally hone your message. If you say it enough on camera, you finally can hone your message enough that people will listen. And that's why today we end up with thousands and thousands and thousands of YouTube videos, is because it takes that many videos to help people understand what you're trying to say. Unfortunately, I wish I could say it one time and people heard it. They rarely hear it the first time.
So
Sure.
Al obviously got over being shy on camera because
I got a story about that.
he's willing all the time. So
We're going to take a quick break. But when we get back, Al and Sandy share how they live like they build, why you should love what you're doing, how to create a magical relationship with your customers, why they started sharing content, and how Al is actually an introvert, if you can believe it. This episode of the Pool Chasers podcast is brought to you by Lion Financial. Since 1979, Lion Financial has helped make backyard dreams come true nationwide. Lion Financial is a specialist in pool financing solutions, offering low rates, long-term, and unmatched customer service. Their programs offer your customers the best in pool financing options, with programs available for scores of 640 and above. Lion Financial is the industry leader in funding 1 billion pools in 2020. They are now offering loan terms up to 25 years, the longest unsecured terms in the industry, as well as loans up to $150,000. Also, due to popular demand, their 2.99% special for a 3-year term has been extended through 2021. Lion Financial's expertise is unique to pools, not just any type of loan. They are a partner with both the homeowner and the pool builder until the project is completed, ensuring pool professionals are paid on time and in full. It is absolutely free for pool contractors to partner with Lion Financial to grow their business. Lion Financial is committed to proving an excellent customer service experience. Homeowners will never be charged a consulting fee or prepayment penalties, and pool builders will never be charged a swipe fee for accessing their hard-earned money. When it comes to something important as a pool and all the memories that come with it, work with the true professionals who have your best interest in mind. With more than 42 years of experience specializing in pool financing solutions, why trust anyone but the experts? For more information, check out episode 94 of the podcast or click the link below.
yeah, so back to the question then about the fun office. We, like Al had said, we had kind of gotten into another business avenue, and that was where we were teaching social media and coaching. And one of the things that was happening at that time is like all of the trendy tech companies, you'd see pictures online and they had these cool offices with beanbag chairs and like all this kind of fun stuff. So we had developed a really fun office. I love color. So everything has color on it. There's nothing I won't spray paint. There's just all kinds of things. So we've moved the office a couple times, and our current headquarters is in Howell, Michigan, and it's a big brick farmhouse that was built in 1883. And we have a huge pole barn for supplies, and we've got a really nice size lot here, which can house some of the ancillary things to the pool business, like our koi pond, which is in a lifeboat. If you've seen the movie Life of Pi, the scene with the boy and the tiger in a boat. So we have like the twin of that boat in the backyard. That's where our koi live, and all kinds of fun things. So, you know, one of the things when I joined the pool company, it was a pool office and it smelled like chlorine and other chemicals, and it was dirty and it was dusty and not really a place that you want to spend much time or like spend a lot of time in getting creative. So the space that we're in has always been really important to me. So Al happens to be upstairs in the mansion filming today, and I'm in my office, which, you know, you can see this shelf behind me. My doorway to my office is huge and arched and beautiful, and there was this wall back there that needed something. So we have artist friends, and I brought him in here one day and I said, so like, look at this beautiful door. This is what convinced me my office needed to be here. Like, I need something on that back wall. So he built me matching curved shelves out of plywood, and like, they are magical. I have a matching desk, and like, I get to come to work in this magical fantasy land, which works out well since we get to also create magical fantasy projects now, in addition to all the other, you know, advice we give about vacuuming swimming pools. So there's a good mix going on.
You know, real quick with that, we learned early on that we live like we build. If we're going to build crazy fun projects that we push our minds to create, we're going to live that way. I remember, Sandy will remember the moment too, probably. We were at a couple offices before, and we made a conscious decision to surround ourselves with things that we love. Everybody tries to stay boring and neutral for resale value, for whatever. When you sell your house, paint the walls beige because everyone can see what they could do with it. We went the other way. We bought and sold a bunch of houses, and we always flare them up in our style and make them really interesting and fun. And actually, people love that. Well, we made the decision to surround ourselves with things that we love. And if you do that, we both love color and texture and things. And like behind her there, that's all handmade stuff from, we're surrounded with the greatest, coolest artists and stuff. Some of that stuff is amazing. And there's you can see a corner of that's a huge frame, and that back corner there, that frame, that is it took me 5 years to be able to finally purchase that from someone. We're having the painting restored, but the frame is 7 feet tall by 12 feet long. Once the painting is in there, it's going to be spectacular. But it's that idea of surround yourself with things that you love. And those are those huge arch doors and stuff.
Oh,
but anyway,
and we
it goes
have a
to
Zeppelin collection, and this
Yeah.
is where we do music nights on Fridays, and and our you can't see that much there, but it's a fun place to spend time.
it's fun.
Yeah.
The idea being, though, is if you can love every moment of your day and love what you're doing every day, you can't help but love what you're doing during the day. And that's what has led us to building this kind of funky, quirky company that lets us play. Our kids are involved every day. I'm slinging mud with the girls, and we're shooting stuff, and we're just kind of playing. And the amazing thing is we create these crazy, fun, cool projects that people couldn't have even imagined were possible. But we get them to dream a little bit, and next thing you know, we always make sure we bring them to the office as well, because we want them to see how we live. Like, this isn't our home. This is where we do business, but there's some rooms upstairs. Sandy stays here sometimes, so she does have kind of an apartment upstairs, but this is just our office. And if we're going to live this way, then we can build this way, and all of a sudden it makes sense for people.
So something to add there too, and pool people might be able to relate. So when Al was burned out and you had this stress, and part of that stress was coming from people calling and being disappointed, or I need you here, it should have been done sooner. So when we reinvented what we did and how we approached the business, we decided that we wanted to be able to have relationships with the people that we worked with, and we wanted to like them. So part of what we do now is, like, a lot of the people that we've built for and people that we've serviced their pools, like, we've become friends, and they will come and hang out with us. And we've eliminated 99.9% of that stress or angst that comes from, where are you and why aren't you doing this? So we treat everything in a whole different way. And the people that we get to work with now also love and appreciate that. So I don't know that you hear that much in the industry, but we do sometimes. And we also invite, like, our suppliers in all the time, other pool people. So, like, we're a pool company, but we're also this community center, or, very people-based company. It's not just about the thing that we do ever. It's always about the relationships with the people that we get to have while we do this thing.
Well, we also, I think, to add to that is, we turn away more phone calls than we accept because it doesn't fit. We don't say yes to everything. We say no to almost everything, but yes to the things we want. But we've empowered everybody that works with us to say no. That if someone's not treating them well, it goes to where she was going with, our relationship with customers. And we know that there's customers out there that just are never going to be great customers. Well, we've empowered our people that if they ever make you feel bad or whatever when you're in their yard, leave. There is no amount of money in the world that they can pay us that we're willing to accept to take care of them if they make us feel like crap. Bottom line. And here's something that I learned, and I finally put it into words just recently within the last few years, and it finally made total sense. Everybody in the industry that listens to this needs to understand this if you're a builder. So think about this. It's simple formula. If you're a great company, a great construction company, and you're hired by a crappy customer, bad deal. If you're a crappy company hired by a great customer, crappy deal. If you're a terrible company hired by a terrible customer, bad deal. That's 75% of the contracts written today fall into those categories. But if you're a great company and you get hired by a great homeowner, customer, it's magic. See, so we have to be a great company, number one. And we have to work to be a great company and grow our people and help our people be better. We do team meetings and we try to teach them. So a really simple thing with that is we teach a young 16 or 17-year-old kid that comes in and we ask him to dig a trench. And who wants to get behind a shovel and dig a trench? But what we help them understand is that every time you dig a hole and you shovel that dirt and you throw that dirt, you change the world forever. You change the contour of the world. As a matter of fact, you change the universe forever. It will never be the same. So when you're doing that menial job, that changes everything about the entire universe. Every single time you do it. Well, if you can help a child, a young kid, learn that what they do has purpose and meaning, digging isn't quite so bad anymore. Apply that to anything in your life. But so we help them do that, which makes us a better company. Well, we're a better company and we will only work for great people. We put people through a lot. Sandy can fill you in on how people get to finally work with us, but we know the magic. Great company and great customer is magic. The rest of them, you wonder why most people hate their contractors or most people hate their pool company. Because one, it's not always the company's fault. We know that. That's half the problem. The other half is crappy customers. But when you recognize who good customers are and who not good customers are, and you don't listen to mainstream media, which tells you the customer is always right. No, they're not. They're rarely right. You're the expert. But when you live from that perspective, it allows it to be magic, and we can become friends with everybody, and we can have those relationships, and we can know going in. I tell people, weird, I'm the fruity pool guy, some people call me, but I tell a customer when I first meet them, if I can love you more tomorrow than I do today, then you and I are going to work out. If I can't love you more, I don't want to do business with you. Because you know what? There's enough people out there that I can do business with that I can fall in love with every day and have a good time. So why not? Life is way too short to have a crabby time if you can have a good time. So that's a big part of the philosophy of why we are a community and why we love doing what we're doing and why we get to be creative is we live in that space all the time and we challenge each other. All of us challenge each other to be a better human being each and every day. So sorry to ramble on with that one, but I think that formula is amazing, and once you recognize how true that is, that wow, just be a great company and get hired by great customers, and it's just magic every day.
Right. Very well said. Love all of that. And I'm sure it really helps with all the content that you've been pushing out for so long. You have all types of photos and videos, and they're talking about different things so that when people are looking to have a pool built, they have a pretty good idea of who you people are as a company and the types of pools that you build, because there's just so much out there. And I admire all of that. That's really cool. And one thing that I wanted to ask was it motivating when you had the idea about starting to do the videos and Sandy's like, hey, I need you to be accountable for doing this for a year? Because I think there's a lot of people in your shoes that are just like, I'm worn out. I don't want to do this anymore. But did that bring another level of excitement to building pools? Because I think there's a lot of people that can take something from that where it's like, think about what would make this fun and sort of an ideal sort of job.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So when I mentioned to Al, like, you're going to do this, we're doing the video, he was willing, but he wasn't always excited about it. So we'd show up at a pool show and I'd get the camera out, whatever it was at the time, flip cam, real cam, cell phone. And I'd say, okay, let's walk around and let's talk to some people. And he'd be like, oh, do we have to? And I'm like, yes, we have to. And then he would, and we'd put it online. Or we'd be on a job site and we'd do kind of a debrief, what happened on the job this day or something like that. And what I always said up front, because I understood enough about, like, everybody wondered at the beginning, how do you measure? Like, is this worth the time I'm putting in? You know, does it need to produce a certain amount of dollars or clicks? And I said, ignore all that, because I had this vision I didn't have the full picture of it, but I had enough of the vision of how to get there that there was a long game in my head that I said, just ignore that. We're just going to do this. We're going to put it out. We're going to see what happens. And what started happening is we'd go to the pool shows and people would start recognizing us. Or we would be on a job site and we did a video of Al doing a backflip into a pool on a project we were working on. We put that online and we got a call from somebody one day wanting to build a pool. And they basically said, well, I found you online. I like your work. I saw this video of Al doing this backflip and I want to be able to do that with my kids. So for the people who think that the numbers of people who see this matter, it doesn't if you have the right frame of mind. At the time that customer saw the video of the backflip, it had 77 views on YouTube. And as a result of that, we built them a pool. And then yet another customer found a video of him doing a backflip and they wanted one. So this one little video that at the time had 77 views was instrumental in landing a 6-figure project that we got to do more video with and have more fun and all that kind of good stuff. So that became the social proof that I think really helps people understand. And I know it definitely motivated Al to keep going with that. Al, you have some thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think in that particular case, that video was like a 5-minute video, and that backflip was 3 minutes into the video.
Yeah.
So it wasn't cut and designed to be a catch, or it wasn't anything about the backflip. It just happened to be in the middle of this video. And that's the social proof that we needed, that if we share ourselves enough. Now, talking about sharing yourselves enough, I by nature am an extremely shy human being. If you had met me as a child, I would have been the little boy hiding behind my mom's skirt, afraid to talk to the world. I still don't like videos of myself or seeing myself. And now my image is everywhere, and that doesn't please me. But I understand its value. I also understood that a real face makes a difference, because I don't know how many times I've been out to a customer or, a potential customer's home, and they're like, you look exactly like you do online. Well, yeah, that's me. Wow, you talk the same, you act the same, you look the same, you dress the same. Yeah, because I'm authentically me. We both agreed that we would never be something different online than we were in person. And that's where this world today is so important. And going way back to that meeting we had with those CEOs was, you have to be authentically yourself. And because we were authentically ourselves online every day, people caught on to that and they were drawn to it. And then the social proof, which Sandi mentioned, was all of a sudden people are talking about the stuff they're seeing online. So if there's somebody out there that hasn't done it yet, it's not too late. We're still in the infancy of it. We just have a great leap ahead of a lot of people. But you know what? Everybody needs to see your stuff. And what we decided also, and part of this was, let's celebrate the small victories. So when we built something cool, while it might not have been the Taj Mahal, but it was cool, we shared it, we talked about it online. And people got to see it. And again, more social proof. It became something. So we start showing up at shows and people know who we are. And I'm uncomfortable with that. I'd rather be a wallflower. I don't want to be all of that. I'm just a down-home guy that wants to do my thing, that has fun leading his life, playing the way I play, but it kind of thrust us into this recognition within the industry. And while that's good, it also is challenging, because I just want to do my fun and I want to go out and play every day and build really cool stuff and be able to look back at my life and go, I built that. That was fun. I got to spend my time with my kids doing stuff and my favorite people in the world. Work isn't a grind anymore. And it was for so long. It was a grind. It emptied me. There was nothing left, kind of, when we launched this new way of doing it. There was nothing inside. I was hollow. And today I'm rich and full. And it's a weird saying, but I love to suck the marrow out of life, the juicy part. Live in the yummy was a term that we used for many years to keep ourselves motivated. Let's make sure we live in the yummy. And when you do, the people around you start living in the yummy. And if they don't want to, they leave. But you attract more people that live in the yummy, that enjoy it, that love it, get excited about it, that can just live a full life. And then we have the pandemic thing hits and everyone gets depressed. I get it. We've all gone through that. However, if you can surround yourself with things that you love, with people that you love, and do something that you love, you go, boy, it sucks that this is going on, and it's too bad that people are falling for all of what's going on. But you know what? You go on and living, and we haven't stopped living. Our lives are bigger today than they were a year ago. To help keep ourselves motivated, we started hiring a band. We have 2 guys that play guitar that play 60s, 70s, and 80s rock, and they come in every Friday. For the last year, we've paid them every Friday to come and entertain us for 4 hours. And we invite our friends. We've had pool company people come. We have pool customers come.
We might
Go
be
ahead.
learning how to play the guitar as well. Something I never thought I would do. But
and we get to play with them. And yep.
Yeah.
So, and what's that's done is that's good for me too. I'm getting old. I'm getting sore. So it keeps my fingers nimble. It keeps me moving. And it's just one other thing to look forward to. I don't look forward to, vacation in 6 months. That doesn't exist in my world. My vacation is every day. It's just a little bit. If we travel, great. I don't need to go anywhere. I'm perfectly happy being here, go fishing when I get a chance to go fishing and build really cool stuff and love on the customer and build relations. And just to touch on something I was going to say earlier, Sandi talked about me and a camera in my face. Last night, I was on an appointment. There's people that we're going to build a pool for. They have a special needs child. And she had her iPad and she was running around. She goes, okay, she sticks at my face. She goes, okay, your turn. You talk. She was videoing. And I'm like, I don't want to talk. I'm scared on camera. And her mom started laughing because, of course, they've seen all this stuff. And here I am with this little girl holding a camera in my face. And I'm like, I didn't know what to say at first. And then I just had to say something. But just because I've done it a lot, it doesn't make it easier. And that's a lesson for everybody. Do it anyway. Yeah. I don't wake up every morning. I can't wait to get on camera. I can't wait to get involved in that. But you know what? It's made my life to the point where we have this huge funnel, all this information, and we have all these people that want stuff from us, but we're only this big. So it's a supply and demand thing. Huge demand, teeny tiny supply. We're in a good position, but it's because of the internet. It's because of doing a lot of this talking about what we do and video of what we do, and it's really changed everything about the company and us as human beings.
Yeah, I think our stories are pretty similar in that way that you're saying, because Greg and I both, I think, to an extent, are kind of introverts, and I think we've had that same kind of calling, if you want to call it, that we just feel like we have this calling to help the industry, and it's put us in places like this, being our voices being everywhere, our faces being everywhere, like I think you guys have done in the past and continue to do. And we all have that same, even when you guys saw us, we did that live show in New Orleans where you came and saw us. Like, for us, that was terrifying. For Greg more than I, it's difficult to put ourselves in those situations. But when you feel a calling to do that, or you just kind of figure out, okay, well, I'm going to start doing it one step at a time, and it becomes this huge thing. It's pretty incredible.
Yeah, you pull your britches up a little tighter and you just do it. It doesn't feel good sometimes, but you know the importance of why you're doing it, and that's a good lesson of start with why. Why am I doing this? Well, I want to help the industry. I feel compelled. I have a reason to want our industry. Our industry is amazing. I'm telling you, it provides an awesome venue for families to grow and to be better human beings, and for parents and children to interact. And when we don't look at that stuff enough, and we don't sell on that stuff enough. We sell on square footage of concrete and how much of this and how much of that. But really, it's an emotional investment. It's an investment in memories. So for all of us, we want to help that industry be all of that. And yeah, it means we have to be uncomfortable sometimes, or a lot of times, and it's not easy, especially when being more of an introvert, which again, people go, oh no, you're not. Oh yeah, I am inside. I just want to hide. But the reality is I've positioned myself to no longer be able to hide. So it forces me to be better.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
We're going to take another quick break. But when we get back, we will discuss how their family is involved every day, and how the hiring of the construction girls brought a whole new level in their attention to detail. We also dive into more about how Ask the Pool Guy and Girl came about and why it is best to be authentic and vulnerable with your content. This episode of the Pool Chasers podcast is brought to you by Lamont. Our friends at Lamont were on the podcast a few weeks back where we discussed their story in the WaterLink Spin Touch, which brings their advanced technology out into the field. The patented WaterLink Spin Reagent Disc is used with the innovative photometer to measure 10 different tests in just 60 seconds and have those results displayed simultaneously on the photometer's touchscreen, along with the capability to send that data through Bluetooth to a smartphone or tablet. The photometer can measure free chlorine, bromine, total chlorine, combined chlorine, pH, alkalinity, hardness, cyanuric acid, copper, iron, phosphate, borate, biguanide shock, and salt. This is the most advanced system for precise use of wet chemistry methods ever produced. Pool and spa professionals can achieve precision without time-consuming tests and cleanup procedures. This groundbreaking analysis system is so simple, anyone can use it. No vials to fill, no prep time, and no guessing. To learn more, check out episode 136 of the podcast or click the link below.
So let's touch back on the pool company and your family being involved, because like Greg mentioned earlier, it's a really cool aspect to us. So talk to us a little bit more about how that's come about and the construction girls and all of that.
Yeah. Well, my kids, I'll do my story and my kids, and then Al can go into his girls. So when I first joined the pool company, as I mentioned, I was getting divorced. So here I find myself a single mom with a couple of little kids. At the point where I started working in the pool store, I think my daughter Kaylee was about 7. So that would have made Kyle 5. So if I was there for the day and I had to run out and do an errand or go to the bank, I could get
her kids were at the store, by the way.
They were at the store,
which we were told
me.
You can't do.
Yeah. They were at the store with me. Easier to do that than try to, especially in the summer, get them in daycare. Why can't they just come be with me? So they did. So if I had to leave for some reason, Kaylee always wanted to be helpful. So I could put somebody in the back, like one of the construction guys, if they happened to be there, in charge of babysitting so nobody stole them. And Kaylee would help the customers and ring them up and do the credit card. So, she's always been kind of a go-getter like that. Kyle, not quite as much when he was younger. But then fast forward, and we ended up hiring, our girls weren't the first girls that worked with the company. First, you had Al's sister-in-law, Karen, who has always been like a sculptor and artisan. So she was working with Al in some of the earlier iterations of the legendary escapes and getting creative. But then we had a friend's daughter who was looking for a job. And at the time, she wanted to work outside and she wanted to do construction. And I even sadly have to admit that at first I was like, I'm not sure that this is a good idea. She's a cute, maybe just out of high school girl,
tiny little blonde girl.
And blonde and beautiful, and does she really want to go out and get dirty? As it turns out, yes, she does. She worked just as hard as anybody that we've ever seen. One day, Al likes to tell the story that they were pebbling or plastering a pool, and she was mixing, and it was just hot, middle of summer. And he sent everybody into their cars or around the corner to the restaurant to cool off. And he said, you go cool off, get something to drink. And she said, I'll take a break when you take a break. And she just kept right on working. So that was kind of the intro to girls really on our team. And she did a great job breaking that ice. And then my daughter Kaylee ended up coming to work with us as well. And she really took to the concrete parts of things, doing the vermiculite bottoms in vinyl liner pools, or she's been on the end of the shotcrete nozzle. And that was kind of really something that she enjoyed doing. Unfortunately, this season, she's also trained as a certified nursing assistant. So with last year, and as weird as it got, and we weren't able to work for a while, and there was this need in healthcare, she's actually not working with the pool company this year because she's gone back into the medical field. So we will miss her for sure, but we've still got Al's daughter, Jessie, who wasn't as much of kind of the go-getter as Kaylee when it came to all that stuff, but Jessie is proving to be
she's steady,
phenomenal. Yeah. And And while she wouldn't take the lead on things in the past, now she will. And she is so well-versed and well-skilled. It's great. So Al, that's, oh, and my son Kyle also, he doesn't work on the construction side as much, but he does a lot of our like wiring of lighting, and he takes care of a lot of the around the office and the supply yard kind of things, and
supply chain and moving equipment and logistics,
hauling and things like that. So I do, and it's great when you don't have to like go clock in somewhere and go to work and like set the rest of your life aside, like your family aside, so you can be there on the clock. Luckily, this is an industry where you can really integrate everything, and that's one of the things that was very beneficial in my life.
So I want to touch on, Allie was the name of the girl she was talking about, the young girl that came to work. I got a call. So the first day Allie was supposed to work, I said, show up on this job in a local community, and there'll be the guy in charge. His name is Paul. He'll be there, and a couple other people, and you just ask him what you need to do. So 8:30 comes around, or whatever time they're supposed to be there, and I get this call from Paul, and he goes, there's this little blonde girl here. What am I supposed to do with her? And I'm like, what do you mean? He goes, well, like, what am I supposed to do with her? I'm like, put her to work. Work her as hard as you work anyone else. You ride her ass if you have to get her to work, and let's see what she's made of. And the end of the day, he goes, you wouldn't believe it. She still wants to work, and everyone wants to go home. And he went on and on and on. He couldn't believe it. But she set the bar for us, because we had Karen's my sister-in-law. She's a bit older. Than these young girls. She's been around for a long time. She's got a great story how she got in too, but this Allie was just ready to go, and Paul just couldn't believe, and he worked the heck out of her, and she was still ready to go by the end of the day. He couldn't believe it. And so that kind of set the bar high of expectation. And that's when Kaylee got involved, and then Jesse got involved, and my daughter Katie got involved, which we still have Katie and Jesse, and then Karen is still here as well. And then we have we've had how many girls on the service and maintenance end? We've had 3 or 4 girls there as well.
Our regular pool cleaners.
Been spectacular.
Your wife, actually, you could mention, she came to work construction when all the girls made it look so fun, I guess.
Yeah, so my wife was a gymnastics coach, and she quote unquote retired or quit a few years ago and came to work on the construction crew as well. So here she's a 52-year-old woman out there working every day, mixing concrete and wheeling and doing all those things, and kind of found her way in it as well. Of course, her sister's there, and 2 or 3 of her daughters are there, and her nephew's there, and it's a whole family thing, which makes it all the more fun because we're accountable to each other, and we all love each other, so we're not going to take anything too personal. We're not going to take it too far because we have to see each other at the end of the day as well. But Karen in particular, she's really the lead artist on the job. And let's go back 25 or 30 years. She was from northern Michigan. That's where I met my wife, was up there. She's from up in the UP. And she came down to work for us and live with us and run a retail store. Well, Karen always loved rocks and playing with rocks and building sculptures and things. Well, I had sold a project, going back to where you were asking the question earlier, Tyler, about how we transitioned in. I had a customer that had an existing gunite pool, and they wanted to do a separate spa, but they wanted to do all this rock work. And they sent me a video of this waterfall they had seen. And I said, I can do it. I had no idea how to do it. I never set a stone in my life on anything at that point. And I said, well, we could do that, because I knew we could figure out how to dig it and form it and have a gunite company come in and shoot it, but we had no idea how to build a waterfall. Well, we get the spa shot, and we figure out how to block up a wall. I never laid a block in my life, and we figured out a footing, and we blocked up the back of this wall because it was supposed to be like the back. You couldn't see the back side. It was only on one side. And Karen happened to stop there at the end of the day and bring her parents, who were in town visiting, to take a look at the project. Just kind of see what we were building. We were pretty early in it. Karen's eyes got this big around, and she said, could I play with stone? Could I play with rocks? And I said, tomorrow you come out here, we'll find someone to cover the store. And Karen showed up the next day, and she was magic. It's like it flowed out of her. Like she'd been waiting all of her life. At that point, she's 35-year-old woman, and like the greatest thing in the world was she got to play with stone. That was the beginning of it, is we just said, we can do it. And we mirrored the look, and it was this really complicated look for stone that we pulled that project off, and Karen never looked back. The next year, I had to hire my nieces from Florida to come in and run the store because Karen was no longer going to work in the store. I couldn't keep her there. She wanted to be out in the field building stuff. And she's been sort of the central to teaching each of these girls. She's taken every one of them. My youngest daughter is 14 or 16. When she was 13, she was amazing doing stonework. But Karen took her along with her, and Molly had this ability to just see how to put things together. So while Molly's not working with the company so much right now, the world as it is weird. She ended up working in a restaurant, and that's fine. She'll be back, though, because she's got plenty of talent. But that was nurtured through Karen. Just like Kaylee, Karen taught Kaylee how to view things and do things, and then Karen's taught each of my daughters as well. She's a spectacular artist, and I got really lucky that she was there. What it did was we had to open our eyes and look at who else could do it. And what we found out was when we brought girls onto the job, they brought an essence. I call it the feminine essence. They brought something else to the project that boys just couldn't do. A great example, and I learned a bunch of stuff when Sandi was out in the field, but one of the things I realized with the girls was if they're wheeling concrete, I'm telling you, these girls wheel 500-pound barrels of concrete as much as the boys do. But what the girls do differently is instead of going over the pile of rocks, they go around them. So you give a boy a wheelbarrow and he just pushes it straight forward till it stops, and then he just pushes harder and harder and harder until he gets over the whatever's in the way. The girl backs up and goes around it. They just have a different way. And so you have to treat them a little different and help them, encourage them a little bit different. But what they bring is a feminine energy, a completion, a sense of finishing and looking really good. So our work, while it was really cool, with the girls, it went to here because it became spectacular. They paid attention to the details in a whole new way. And anybody that has the opportunity to put a couple girls to work in this environment, magic is bound to happen, especially if you want to do custom work.
That's awesome.
Super cool. Yeah. So let's just touch more a little bit on the Ask the Pool Guy, Ask the Pool Girl, and explain how that developed over time.
Sure. How about you, Sandi? You go ahead with that one.
It's really interesting because it's kind of like there was life before Ask the Pool Guy was a thing, and then life after. So we started doing the video, and we did not have Ask the Pool Guy on the radar. We were just doing video, and we were sharing as Legendary Escapes. And then at some point along the way, and I don't know, Al, if you can recall exactly when it happened, when we were fielding more of these questions from online, and we started getting random people, they would email or they would call, and it made sense to develop what should we call this if we do Q&A and we put these informational things out there. So we invented Ask the Pool Guy, and then we had to figure out how to brand it. So we found somebody to design a logo, and they put kind of this caricature of Al together with the logo, and it stuck, and that was great. And we started branding the Q&A and parts of the website with that. And although I know things about pools and I've got some of that technical knowledge, I didn't ever think it would be the pool girl. But the more that we did it, Al would get a question and he would answer it in a certain way. And then I would see that there would be a different way to explain it, or maybe something that put it in layman's terms, or just, with different nuances. So I started fielding some of those questions as well. So then we developed Ask the Pool Girl. And on our YouTube channel, we do have thousands of videos, and we cover the projects that we're building, and we show people how to basically, test your water, and what is a multi-port, and how does the water actually run through a swimming pool system, because it was something that people had questions on but didn't really have the knowledge. I actually do some of the videos, and they're at this point a little younger. I look a little younger in those videos than I am now, but I went through step by step. Here's where the water is coming in, and I explained it. And we got a lot of feedback on those, and people, especially women, being empowered to figure this out because it could be explained in a way that kind of helped them develop the knowledge. So then Ask the Pool Girl kind of stuck as well, and hence the logo caricature.
So that to touch on that, and for anybody who is in the position to thinks they want to start doing something, we didn't have it all figured out. So our first logo, again, we knew we wanted some type of a caricature. Well, we had been at some type of an outdoor event where it was a vendor event years before even this idea of Ask the Pool Guy. And somebody had done a caricature of me. Someone's paying, you pay $10 and you get a caricature. And they'd done this caricature of me. So while we're developing, and this just sat, I had a Free Hugs t-shirt on at the time, and they had written on there Free Hugs, slashed out the hugs and put drugs or something. It was like a ha-ha funny thing. Well, we're developing this Ask the Pool Guy, and we need somewhat of a logo. So I took the head of that and I started hand drawing different bodies on it. So we had the character doing different things with pool maintenance equipment. I remember doing one saying, "Boy, it's been a long winter," and I put myself in shorts with my shirt up halfway up my chest with my rolls hanging out, to make fun of, "Oh, it's been a long winter, need to get back to work." And so we were using those early on. So you don't have to start with the finished logo that we now have. We started with what was in front of us. We started out with a really bad representation of me, but it worked. It was enough. And then we went on to find a woman that did the caricature that really, of course, I am all gray now, but at the time I had a nice brown beard and all of that. But we got started. We could have waited till it was perfect, but instead we just started. We started asking or started answering those questions before we knew. And back to when I talked about the girls a few minutes ago, about the essence that they bring, that's something that Sandi brought to the table when she answered how to start a pump, how to prime a pump, how to do things that, in me, I'm mechanically thinking everybody knows how to do this, so I'm just using generic terms, where she would flavor it so that a woman would understand. And I do think that some of the largest numbers of views of videos online for us are some of those early videos she did of how to prime a pump. Because there's a lot of women out there that there's no longer a man around, but there's still a pool, and they needed to relate to understand how to to get their pump started. And so Sandi brought a lot of that to the table, and that's why Ask the Pool Girl was so important. Although I would like for her to touch on when we were doing articles for Aqua Magazine, and we did an article about girls in the industry and women in the industry, and they refused to publish it.
Yeah.
We've never published with them ever since, because we understood the importance of having women in the industry and being empowered. And then it was too politically I don't know at the time. You explain that, but that's the importance of why we need Ask the Pool Girl.
I had almost forgotten about that. So we did a stint where Aqua Magazine had reached out to us, and I don't know what put us on the radar. I think, found us online and saw some of the different blogs and things we were doing. So asked if we'd like to contribute. So we did, and then it kind of became a regular thing. Well, Al had done a bunch of the articles, and then I had done a couple. And there was a really good one that came together. It was kind of the culmination of our construction girls we just had this magical summer when we were working on the pirate ship pool. You might have seen those pictures online. And it's the one that we ended up kind of filming as a docu-series, reality-esque show showing, our interaction with the customer and how we built it. And it turned out spectacularly. So there's an article, and it was titled Grit and Grace, Women in the Pool Industry. And it just said how, it has been a somewhat male-dominated industry. I know there's a lot more women in it now than there were 10 years ago. And 10 years ago, it was a bit of a novelty. And 15 years ago, I remember a job where I showed up to open their pool. And the woman homeowners looking at me going okay, when's the man getting here? And it's no, it's me, and it's my friend Karen, who also was a woman, not the Karen who's on the construction team now, but we did it. And there was a bit of skepticism from them. Like, do you really know what you're doing? And are you qualified to be here? So, of course, yes, we knew what we were doing and we were qualified to be there. So I put this article together and submitted it to Aqua Magazine. And it was, in my opinion, a spectacular article. And I don't know who ultimately made the decision that it couldn't be published, but they decided not to run it, which was...
They ran it online, but they wouldn't
strange.
print it.
No, I don't even know that they did that.
I thought they did. Maybe not.
They absolutely wouldn't publish it, which was weird because that had not happened, and we had, dozens of articles published. And then I was told it was a bit too political. So celebrating that, we have this cool company and we have women, and we told the story of Allie and told the story of the women on the team and just the different things that they're able to do. That for me was a line in the sand. And, having a business that you believe in and also principles that you stand for. Unfortunately, we didn't write with them anymore, but that's the way it goes. Yeah.
Yeah, that was the last article we ever submitted to them.
Yeah.
Because you have to draw a line in the sand when you realize if the industry is going to be political about things. We were simply sharing amazing information about amazing people that our industry needed.
Yeah.
We need to embrace that. We have a crisis right now of boys not knowing how to be men and not knowing how to work and not wanting to work. Boys are no longer men. Boys are boys. Girls are men. Girls have a lot more. And I wish every boy out there was willing to work their butts off a little bit and learn how to be a real man and go to work. Most of them won't. And we were addressing that by saying, look, there's another option. Open your eyes. There's women that can do the same work, not just be in the office, not just be the owner, not just be the secretary, but can go out there and do this work. Yeah. And at that time, they refused to acknowledge that for who knows what reason. And we kind of drew a line in the sand and said, we're not going to play anymore in the established part of our industry. And I mean, we were already rogue doing what we were doing, but we decided that we're not playing in the sandbox anymore.
Well, we were, but that's the magic of social media because, it created this platform where anybody could go do this. So while we do like getting to know everybody in the industry, we've never taken the approach that some people might feel that you have to get noticed by somebody else important in order for you to gain credibility or for popularity or whatever you're doing to make sense. That's the other kind of principle that we founded our online social media on. We're doing this for us. We're doing this for the people that we'd like to get to know online, our clients and our customers. And we're doing this for the industry as a whole because there's a lot of people that have questions. But we're not doing this to try to garner traditional media attention or traditional publisher attention. Just it's different. And that's something also that is important to keep in mind when people get started in it. You get to create the platform to share things in the way that you want to, and you don't have to change it or alter it just so people will like you or give you favor or grant you, an audience. The more that you hold true to your authentic self online and the more that you don't try to play into what you think other people need you to be, the better it comes across because people can really relate to that. So that's another, I think, important point. Don't do it for the popularity. Yeah. Do it for the purity of doing it.
I think you're totally right. I do think that the playing field is not even. And there is still work, even if you're not trying very hard in videoing, you're still exporting video and you're still matching audio and you're, manipulating photos a little bit with editing. It's still a little bit of work. And for it to not be noticed and recognized, we all need a little bit of, validation. Mm-hmm. It definitely makes it a little bit more difficult. But I love that, it's more important for you all to be consistent, and it has been from the very beginning, and being consistent, being your true self, and just do it so that you can just get on with your day and doing the work.
Yeah. I think an important lesson, something that I learned, and here's the thing for me, not really understanding the dynamics of the internet like Sandi was able to, was I thought numbers of views were important. And she would always say, don't worry about who sees it. Don't worry about how many. And to me, it was always about, but it's got to be viral. Meaning, there's got to be lots of views. There's got to be lots and lots and lots. And she would always say to me, relax. It doesn't matter. Let's just produce content. Let's produce content. It doesn't have to be published. We're not going to redo it. We're going to do one take and everything we talk about. And whether you fall down flat on your face or not, she would say, I'm publishing it. I'm going to show the ups and downs of who you are and what you're doing. And let's not worry about the number of views. And that was a big thing for me because in my mind, it's like, what's my return on investment? Well, views. If I get lots of views, then it meant something. And so untrue, going back to where she talked about the backflip video of 77 views. While we have videos that have hundreds and hundreds of thousands of views, we have videos that have 20 views that help us sell big projects. And that was a big thing for me to get over, was not needing to create a viral video, to not have to worry about how many people liked our page or how many people liked what we did or how many subscribers we had, because those were metrics that I could understand. But she kind of broke me of that to say, just don't worry about it. We're never going to beg people to follow us. You will never see on our video, ooh, please like our page, or ooh, that just wasn't us. We just wanted to share information. Now, I understand that works to increase eyeballs and all of that, but we said, let's just do this authentically. Let's be us. Let's do as much of it as we possibly can because it's important to do, and let's do it because it fills our soul and our spirit, and it helps our industry. And so we never worried about, well, gosh, how many people, subscribe to us on YouTube now? I don't know. Or how many people are we getting how many minutes are being viewed per month? I don't know. Every once in a while we review that. We do a marketing club and we bring some people.
Like,
we celebrate it.
Guess what it is now. Yay.
Yep.
And then we move
Here's
on.
a new benchmark.
Yeah.
But it was never, if only I could get to 10,000 views, it would mean something. Or if only... I learned that really quick when the 77 views of a 5-minute video that 3 minutes in was me doing a backflip up a waterfall would sell us a couple swimming pools. I realized at that point, forget me thinking I understood. Should it be a 37-second video or should it be 2 minutes and 10 seconds? Or it didn't matter at that point. It was push the content, get the content out there because somebody will like that content and some don't. That's okay. They're not our customer, but some do. And all we need is some. We don't need all. We only need a teeny tiny bit of the people that see our stuff that are going to interact and respond with us. So it took me a while. That was from my perspective. It took me a long while to get over thinking that it had to be super special or it had to be super polished. For what we do, it doesn't need to be. For what you guys do specifically as a podcast, I understand. Mm-hmm. We never worried about sound and quality and all of that, but I know the importance because it brings something more. But ours was just raw.
We didn't let it stop us. If it, we tried, but if whatever happened, we ran with it anyway. So.
Yeah, and that wasn't our intent. What you guys do, it's amazing because it brings all of our old styles together to make something succinct and, something that you can package and move on. We weren't packaging anything together. We were just throwing it out there as fast as we could. If it was any good, we put it out. If it wasn't any good, it went in the archives. And there's probably, for however many thousand videos are out there, there's probably that many thousand videos that are terrible that are hiding in our archives somewhere in our 25 terabytes of content sitting under Sandi's desk. Who knows? But
that's awesome.
But to us, it was important just to share the message because at that time, I'm sorry, Sandi, especially at that time, no one was doing it. There were a few people trying to do really polished things, which, while polished things are great, nobody pays attention anymore. I had teenage girls at the time where I remember asking my teenage daughter, so who do you like? What star do you like?
Star, yeah.
I was waiting to hear like some movie star, some great whatever. And Jessie, my middle daughter, named all these YouTube people I'd never heard anything about. I'm like, yeah, but what about Harrison Ford? Yeah, what about, all these? And she's like, who are they? She had
What's
no
his
idea.
YouTube channel? Yeah.
Yeah. To her, she had no idea what any of that stuff was. But boy, she could tell you about this YouTube star that did this and the guy that does this and the Instagram gal here and the influencer there. And not one of those people was producing over-polished and produced stuff. And so I asked her, why do you like them? I think this is a really good point. Sorry, Sandy, I'd cut you off, but this is a really good point. When I asked Jesse, why do you like these people, whoever they were? And she said, well, Dad, they're themselves. They're talking about themselves. They're doing stuff that they want to do, and they're sharing it with the world, as opposed to when I think of Hollywood, it's an actor playing someone else, being told by someone else how to be, and then being polished by someone else to make them look a certain way. She said, I would rather, and this is Jessie at the time, she's 25. She was probably 15 years old at the time, or 15 or 16. She said, I would rather watch someone who is real, being themselves, doing what they love, sharing it with me so I can enjoy it with them. And to me, that was like, poosh. The world changed for me at that point, because I recognized it wasn't about the polished, produced stuff anymore. It was about doing what's authentically real and being yourself and being human and showing your idiosyncrasies and your mistakes and your faults, and not being embarrassed by them, and not being afraid of the face twitches and the whatever, your inconsistencies in your speech and any of that. That's what this generation today really wants. And that's our future customer. So Sandy.
Yeah, the only other thing I wanted to mention is we do have archives of like this footage that at the time it was current, like was cringeworthy, and we can't put it out there. What I've found is everything vintage becomes cool again. So at some point, if we recorded it 5 years ago, if it's still relevant or if it adds to the story that we're telling, even if it's silly or we thought it was at the time, a lot of that content we have then kind of put out later, and it becomes a really cool part of it. It's either like, remember when this was the first time we tried this, and we can kind of show it in that context, or we can just say, here's a look back at where we were. So for us, it's celebrating where we are now, yet it's another point of content and relatability to people. So like Al said, people watching, even if it's not perfect or polished, like it lets them relate to you. So we had spoken at the Canadian Pool Show. We were talking about building hybrid pools and the way that we go about it. So one of our early slides that I think made a huge impact on the office was Al like roped to the fence because he was hanging over a pool trying to secure a ladder on one of the early undersides of a waterfall. And it was the most bizarre picture. But I think it's what got the audience like early into our talk to like really be invested with us, because they saw that picture and they said, I've done that. I've had to tie myself up so I could reach in a pool, and I feel the pain, and I'm like, they're all putting themselves in that position. And if you don't share those, the vulnerable moments where it's not perfect and it like isn't going in seamlessly, then people can't relate, because none of us are perfect. But when you show authentically, like, this is what I have to go through, that's when people really, I think, even start to pay more attention to you, because you're real and they can see themselves in what you're sharing.
That picture was not flattering of me. I will tell you, that was not the best position to see me in, but it was relatable. It mattered, because here I am tied, my legs were tied, a rope was tied off my legs over behind me. I was hanging upside down on a slide or something. I was tied to the fence so I didn't fall in. I had to do something under the slide. It wasn't the most flattering picture of me. However, it was relevant because people could understand that sometimes we have to do things to get the job done. And instead of going, oh, don't show that picture of me because, oh, I look terrible, it was, you know what, that's authentically me, and that's part of the job that we do. So let's be authentic in everything we do. And you're right, Sandy, we connected to the audience with that photo, allowed everything we had to say after that to matter to them. Because up to that point, they were like, whatever. And all of a sudden, I became real, in particular because I'm talking about the things that I'm building, and I became real because I was the guy hanging upside down, not me just talking about maybe someday someone would hang upside down. There was me hanging upside down in this photo, and it was a ridiculous photo of me.
I'll share it with you guys.
Yeah. Validated. It validated, your professionalism, and it validated your, that you were just like them. They saw, okay, they can make that connection,
Yeah, and I'm willing to do anything that I'm going to ask you to do. I'm willing to do myself. And that was one of those validations, was I'm not just going to tell you to go and how to do this thing that we do, talking about hybrid pools, but I'm going to do the work and I'll show you that I've done the work. So when I explain to you how to do something, you know it's because I've done it. And I've
Right.
gone over the top doing everything and anything I had to do.
Right. Well, where can people find you all? Because we want to be sensitive to your time. Yeah, where can people reach you?
Yeah.
I'm right here all the time. I don't know. She'll be able to tell you where they can find
All
out the
right,
rest of
put an address out there. Have people come visit
go.
you in
Yeah.
Michigan.
Anytime.
You can look us up online. askthepoolguy.com is the website, and we've got those handles on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and then legendaryescapes.com is where we share most of the building of the pools. There's some commingling, but we did find, because when we reinvented the company, locally here in Michigan, we're building really cool, creative, custom swimming pools. But then the other part of what we're talking about is, how do you figure out what's going wrong with your pump and things like that. So we wanted to separate it so somebody could find it all. But if you were interested in the building aspect, you didn't have to go through all these other, just service related things. So that's why we've got the two. So some of the content is shared, but you'll find us like everywhere under both names. Sometimes the focus is just a little different.
So time goes really rapidly, and I'm sorry for my long-winded stories, but we never did get to talk about the crazy freaking cool stuff we do get to build. I mean, that's a whole nother thing in talking about the hybrid process of what we build and what we do. But certainly you can see it online at both, Legendary Escapes will show more of it, but our projects are incredibly unique and different than what you'll see out there in the world for sure.
Yeah, most definitely. Once again, thank you so much for your time. This was awesome, and we really can't wait to hopefully see you at another trade show in the near future.
You got it.
Well,
Thank
let's
you
certainly
guys.
hope that the world changes a little bit and it makes it a little easier for us to travel and see each other again. Absolutely. So
Most
thank you
definitely.
guys too for everything you do. We appreciate it. It's amazing to see young guys taking full reign of what needs to be done online, because you guys are blazing a trail here that I think is really important, that unfortunately our industry just has, as a whole, has not embraced like it could and should. And you guys are there, so we appreciate
Yeah,
it.
I think you're bringing a lot of the pieces together, and I love that you're able to talk to us and talk to other people, that we can all learn and grow and find out about other people that we may not otherwise meet. So I really appreciate what you guys are doing, and I appreciate that you invited us to come on here with you as well.
Yeah, thank
Oh,
you
you're
guys.
very, very welcome. And I will say this, and I said this the last time that we spoke to each other, was that anybody listening to this, it's all about respect. And we feel like the respect is mutual. We respect everything that you did far before we ever got into this, just like everybody else that was doing things in this business before it was cool or before the internet was cool. And I think that's important for everybody to understand, that you wouldn't be doing what you're doing if it wasn't for the people in the beginning kind of blazing that trail and making way for people like us to step in and bring some of the things that we're good at into this business. So yeah, appreciate
Well,
it.
we certainly appreciate you taking that and then doing something with it and growing it and making it 1,000 times what we could have done with it. Because I really think that our purpose was to find the beginning ways and just stumble our way, because we were just willing to, I guess, to stumble our way through it. But then guys like you can come along and go, wow, we can just take this and make it so much better and enrich the industry so much better. And we appreciate that, because that's not a skill that we had. Wasn't our purpose. Our purpose was simply to just kind of do this thing while we developed our company and who we were. And you guys could take it and really make it something.
There's still a lot
So
of room
appreciate it.
out there. So
Lots
if
of room.
people listening, take one bit of advice, it's wherever you are, get started
Start
and jump
there.
in, because there's a lot of ways that things in this industry can be talked about and explained. And I would really like to see more people kind of, joining. And I know there are every day, but even if somebody has thought about it and they need to get started doing something like this, like what we're doing or what you're doing, there's definitely room. So,
And I know you guys are always there to help, and we're always here to help. I mean, we're open to answering any questions that anybody has on how to get started or how to do things a certain way. And as you guys have helped us and are willing to help others, so it's out there for sure.
Yeah, and we've certainly, that's been a kind of part of who we are, is we've kept ourselves open to being willing to help, because there's a lot of opportunity out there for people to just, number one, I would love to see the industry be better. If you get nothing else from doing this, you become a better human being and you become a better company, because it gets you to talk about the things that you don't normally talk about in your day-to-day work. So when we talk about it and we talk about who we want to be, we just become better. Well, if we can get more people talking like that, our industry gets better. And that's what I would like to see.
Yeah.
So thank you guys again.
Yeah, thank you.
Hey, Pool Chasers. Thanks for listening. We hope you enjoyed the episode. To connect with today's guests, including pictures, links, and resources from everything discussed today, you can visit the episode page at poolchasers.com or click the links below. To connect more with us, you can find us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter by searching at Pool Chasers. If you would like to support the podcast, the easiest and most effective way is to subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube, as well as share the show or your favorite episode with a friend or on social media. Also, you can get early access to each episode by supporting us through Patreon. We know your time is valuable, so thank you for sharing some of yours with us today.
See you out there, Pool Chasers.